Hello, this is a tutorial on BYOD classroom ideas. BYOD, or Bring Your Own Device, is an initiative started in January 2015 quarter for business students. It is possible that it is going to expand beyond that, but for the winter quarter 2015, this is for business students. Business students are required to bring their own device to class, so the idea here with this tutorial is to give faculty some things to think about and consider when they're working with their students in the classroom with these devices. So the first thing is to think about what is it that we can do in this quarter that we couldn't do either last quarter or in a previous quarter when students did not have access to devices. So now students will have access to devices, they will have them in their hands, they will be in the room, and we'll be able to interact with them on a regular basis. Unless we were in a PC lab, that couldn't be done before. That leads us to what is known as the SAMAR Model. The SAMAR Model was created by Dr. Ruben Pentadura, and each one of the letters in SAMAR, S-A-M-R, stands for something. S stands for substitution, augmentation for A, M is modification, and R is redefinition. So the idea here is that there's a process of integrating technology into the classroom situation. And so you need to start slow and work up to the amount of usage and the type of usage of the technology. So when you're talking about the beginning level, the basic foundational pieces, that's the substitution level. Tech acts as a direct tool substitute with no functional change. As that becomes more comfortable, you can move up into augmentation. These technical uses of whatever technology and devices that you're going to have, regards to how it impacts the student learning, is really just enhancements. If we can move above the line to the M and the R, modification, the tech allows for a significant task redesign, and then up to redefinition, the tech allows for the creation of new tasks previously inconceivable. Those are transformative constructs. So here is a little deeper definition of all these categories. The S, substitution, where we said it acts as a direct tool substitute. Here's an example, a word processor used like a typewriter, so we're kind of increasing the type of tech, and this is kind of the end result here. It's not greatly enhancing the learning, it's just kind of doing it in a different way. Augmentation, where it acts as a direct substitute with a functional improvement. So you have some basic functions, again, in our example, where you can cut, copy, paste, spell check, etc. And then here's how where the end result would be after that enhancement. Modification. Now, again, we're above that line. So the modification, this is where it allows for a significant redesign in the tasks. So we can integrate this work with email, spreadsheets, and so forth, collaborate with experts about the design and result of lab work, from feedback, make changes to the lab design. And then finally, the top level. This would also be like the highest level of blooms as well, too, is where you're talking about redefinition. Tech allows for creation of new tasks previously inconceivable, integrated with a work group and content management software, and here's an example of what the end result can be. Think about it this way: a redefinition example would be in a basic class. Let's say there's an expert out there that just for whatever reason you can't get him or her to come in and be a guest speaker in your class. Because of technology, that person could actually be located in a different state or even another country, and we might be able to hook them up through like a web conference. So this is a way that you're redefining this particular activity, because without the technology it can't happen. If you're located in Michigan and the person is located in California, that just can't happen, that person from California can engage with your students unless you are using some type of technology. And before we move forward with some ideas, I did want to point out to everybody the EdTech page. Many of you already know what this is all about, but there's a guides.baker.edu/edtech brings you to this particular website where there's all kinds of help for you on flipped and blended classes, Blackboard tutorials. You have some of those here. And this is the particular tab that I want to point out, is the Tutorials tab, which gives you access to a blog that's been created by Instructional Design and Ed Tech that has all kinds of ideas of different things that you can do utilizing tech. It's searchable, so you have these labels over here to the side. So if you're looking for something on formative assessment, you could click here. If you're looking for something related to lecture, reflective discussion, here's that SAMAR model that we were talking about if you needed more information there. You also have the ability to request the tutorial, so if there's some piece of technology that you're interested in but we don't have the tutorial here, if you request the tutorial, we can build it for you. And you can add your email address here, and then anytime we create a new tutorial, which is about once a week, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, depending on where we are in the quarter, if you put your email address in here and hit submit, you will get an alert anytime a new tutorial is added. So back to our discussion on ideas and the fact that students all have devices in their hands in class. Some of the things that you can think about and implement because the technology exists. LCI, Learner Center Instruction, we've been talking about this for a while. This is where you get students to participate in the learning. So rather than having them watch while you're up there doing lectures, you can actually do some things a little bit differently, where the students can actually doing some analysis, they could do some exploration, they can do some application right there in class with you as kind of the guide on the side rather than you doing all the work as the faculty. The flipped classroom model, where you're actually taking what would normally be done in the classroom and you're seeing how much of that can you put in some type of a digital format so that students can do at home, and then when you get into class they can actually have access to your expertise as the faculty right in class, and so they can actually be doing things. They can be kind of in a lab setting. If you think about it that way, all of your lecture and all of their early exploration with the content happens at home, and when they come to class you get to engage with them right away, right in the classroom with the use of their devices. So you're thinking about lower levels of Bloom's taxonomy is what they're going to do at home, and higher levels, so things like application and above, is what you're going to have them do in class. Also, some of you may know this, some of you may not. These devices that the students are going to buy natively, they do not come with Microsoft Office. For many people, that's fine. They won't even have to buy Microsoft Office. They will have the ability to buy that for most of the devices, but everybody has the ability to do Microsoft Office stuff for free because we are a Google educational app institution. Anybody that has access to a Google account, a Google Drive account, has a Microsoft Office replacement, which could be acceptable for what most people are going to need to use that for. Again, any of these items down here, if you're looking for additional ideas or some tutorials, many of these things are on that EdTech guide that I showed you already. So please feel free to check that out if you need a little help. But there is a discussion, there is a tutorial about using the Google Drive as a Microsoft Office replacement. They can access web-based apps in class. Again, check the EdTech guide for ideas. So there are things that you can have them do using their computer where they can participate in various apps or applications that already exist out there in the market. Many of them are free. Many of them do not contain anything that they have to download. It's just web-based. You just log into a website and you participate in the activity. There's all types of formative assessment tools out there. There's tools for all kinds of creation exercises, building exercises, exploration exercises, practice, role play, just about anything you can think of you can find. Collaboration options. One of the great things about everybody in the class having a device is that it's really easy to do a lot of group work. We can utilize things like Google Drive and Google Plus to actually share information, share documents, share spreadsheets, share Word documents, what have you, and actually work together on projects right there live. And then obviously that can be continued at home as well in case things are not finished in the classroom. Google Plus is another way you might want to consider maybe building groups in the Google Plus account, and that way you kind of form little learning communities. Data gathering. It's possible for some business courses, maybe things like management, marketing, maybe even HR, that there might be a project that entails gathering a little bit of information. Well, you can actually use Google Forms and you can create very fast, very user-friendly surveys where you can gather all that data. You can even use those form surveys that you create and gather data from fellow students in your class or in other classes, and then actually have some real-time data to be working with as you work on your projects and decision making and so forth. Quick formative assessment tasks. There's one that I really like called Socrative. So it's Socrative.com to get to it, and then they have something there, they have a tool there called an exit ticket. And what's nice about that is that's a great activity for, you're at the end of the class, 5, 10, 15 minutes to go. Maybe you planned on coming up with some type of activity to use the devices, and you ran out of time in your prep, or you just get to the last 10, 15 minutes of class, don't really want to start on maybe a new topic, but you'd like to kind of get a feel of where everybody is. The exit ticket allows you to just start it, to launch it right away. And since the instructor station is hooked up to the overhead projector, what it's going to do is it's going to produce a couple of quick questions. You don't have to even think about them. They're already there. They're the same questions every time. And one of them is about, how comfortable do you feel with the content we talked about today? There's another one, specifically talk about some piece of content that made an impact that you feel like you want to talk about and share. And then the third question is kind of like a wild card. That's where you can just write something up on the board. One more thing that you would like to ask them, because actually on the student screen it's going to say, answer the question the faculty just provided you, type of a thing. So that's a real quick and easy way to put something together that maybe you were not prepared for when you have a little bit of time left in the class. So something worth taking a look at. Exploration. Excellent thing to do when every single student has a device. A hand goes up and they ask you a question, you can say, turn it back on them. Great question. You all have devices. I'm going to give you 10 minutes. Let's see what kind of answers we can come up with, and then I'll check back with you and we'll have a discussion about those. But it's also a great opportunity to talk to them about things like Google search, which everybody's going to do. Anytime you give them an assignment, that's the first thing that they're going to do. If they don't know what something is they're going to Google it, right? I mean, to the point where Google has become a verb. They're going to Google it. We also should talk to them about Google Scholar. We should talk to them about, when you're doing searching, how can you tell whether you're getting quality information? What's the source? Talk to them about that. Make sure they know about Google Scholar, so they're going to get access to refereed publications. And then also the research guides. A lot of classes in the business division, as well as others, have research guides that are either the content, because there is no textbook, or they're supplemental to the textbook content. So let them know about that, and allows you to help them engage with the content in these ways. There's also some Blackboard tools that they will have access to now in class, as opposed to only being able to do it when they're in a PC lab or when they're at home. Things like Video Everywhere, where a faculty or a student can, on the fly, right in the discussion board, can create a video and have it posted on the discussion board, or can post it into an assignment link. There's also blogs, wikis, journals, groups, a lot of other ways to interact using some Blackboard tools, and Blackboard gets updated all the time, so there will always be more added to this list. Another idea is what's called 20% time. This is something I actually got in a K-12 environment when I went to a conference. I just kind of liked the idea, and I thought we could adapt it to college. And that is where they pick a class period. It may be, once a week in a K-12 environment. If you're teaching a day class, maybe it's just one of the 2 days during the week that you have class running. Maybe you don't do it every time in a weekly situation. Maybe you do it periodically. Maybe you do it once or twice. Maybe you only do it once. But it's where you set aside 20% of the time for students to get together, either as a class or in small groups, and work on some type of special project. Maybe it's kind of something that you're going to let them determine what they have a particular interest in as it relates to your subject. Maybe it's not a specific assignment. Maybe it's some type of a current event thing, something that's going on right now. that it's kind of related to what you're talking about, and maybe you'd like to give them, an hour to just find out whatever we can and talk about it and engage in a debate, that type of a thing. So it allows them to be a little creative, a little critical thinking, innovation, what have you. And so they call it 20% time in the K-12 environment. The idea is taking 20% of some course time you have in a week and setting it aside for something completely different than what you're normally doing in class. Current event kickoff. What this is since everybody is coming to class with a device, the first thing you do is you have whether you assign somebody different or a couple of people different each week, or whether everybody looks and they raise their hand when they find something that they think is interesting or cool, but you start each class off with a quick scan of your particular industry, whatever the content of that course is, or whatever the subject matter is this week. Just, what's going on? What's going on out there? Is there anything new? Is there any hot topics, hot trends that we need to be aware of? And so it kind of allows you to have a little, maybe quick 10-15 minute discussion of a scan of the industry as what's going on. So that's another idea. Defend it. This is where you ask students a question, and obviously the question can have some meat to it. It could be, something of an essay variety, or, open-ended type of a thing. But not only do they respond, but they have to prove it. They have to back up or justify their position. So they may have to go out and do a little bit of searching. They may have to find some data that corroborates their point. They may have to find somebody else who has written something. So just some ways to look at it that way. That's called defend. So you ask a question and the student has to prove their answer. Web conference skills, great for business students, obviously, things like Google Hangout and a new tool coming very soon called Blackboard Collaborate, which is kind of like WebEx built right into Blackboard. Things like role plays. Web conference skills, think about it this way. Maybe you have a business class and you're talking about a global or an international component. Maybe it's a marketing situation. Maybe it's a product, you're looking to get into a new market with some new product, or you have to investigate the market to see if maybe that product will work in your world. Take the class and divide them up into 3 or 4 little groups, and they huddle around a computer in the corner of the room and have them create a web conference where this particular group is Tokyo, this group is LA, this group is Chicago, and this group is Berlin, or what have you, and allow them to engage in a web conference like you really would in a business environment. Then there's what's called the maker movement, which is students making content. Rather than them just being receivers, they're actually creators of content. So have students create things. Have you ever had a group of students or a student actually have to go up to the board to present something? I know that used to happen to me in things like math classes or accounting classes. The instructor would say, okay, they'd choose me to do problem 4, and I had to go up to the board and do it. Well, there's some other things that they can create too. We've already kind of talked about videos. Have them create videos. Have them, if they understand something, maybe they're an HR student and they have to create, an ethics, code of ethics for their workplace, or maybe they're working on a portion of an HR employee manual. Maybe have them create a quick little tutorial on one portion of that manual. They can use all types of apps and digital media and all kinds of different things to create that. Again, EdTech Guide will give you a lot of good ideas. Also, presentations. Presentations are something that are part of the entire world. You always have to present yourself at the very least. From once you finish that student role and you go out into the work world, at the very least you have to present yourself in an interview situation. So anytime I think we can have them create things and work on things in a presentation role, I think is very good for them. Speaking of presentations, we often have situations where students, maybe they write a paper and then at the end of class they have to stand up and give a little 5-minute speech, if you will, or present their summary of their findings orally. Well, make it contain some visuals or some graphical elements where they have to get involved in doing some things with the technology besides just going up there and talking a good game. Great practice, again, for the real world. Global trends activities. This is similar to that current event kickoff that I mentioned earlier, but it's possible that there are things going on in the world, whether you're talking about a sociology class or an economics course or in healthcare or in law, that may be worth a little bit of an exploration, investigation, and or discussion. So there's the possibility of using the devices to do that. And then finally, concept mapping. Concept mapping, I have some examples of some of this in the EdTech guide, but the idea of demonstrating or tutoring or teaching somebody how to do something with graphical elements, so things like concept maps or infographics are good ways to do that kind of thing. So that might be a consideration, is have somebody maybe explain an org chart or explain steps in a process, a workflow, if you will. Great ways to do that. And Google actually has a built-in add-on called Lucid Charts. So when you're in your Google Drive, if you click on More, when you're in your waffle, your little checkerboard pattern there that allows you to move back and forth between your Google apps, one of them that you can use is called Lucid Chart, which really puts Bubbleless and MindMeister to shame, frankly, for all the different things it can do. And it has things like diagram, schematic diagram templates, and all kinds of different things. Definitely worth a look. These are just some ideas. There's obviously more. I may actually think of some more and put together a part 2 to this. But in order to provide some ideas or some help for you, for those faculty that are going to be teaching some business students who are all going to be showing up with the devices now, really it just kind of, take a deep breath. You're going to find this is really going to be a great opportunity for you to do a lot of things in class that you couldn't do before. And I think if you go ahead and start back up at this spot, what can we do this quarter that we couldn't do last quarter unless we were in a PC lab? That is definitely, I think, where you need to start your thought process. Again, you can contact myself, Bob Payne, or any of us in instructional design for some additional ideas or help in this regard. Thank you.